brainly beyond introduces you to 9 red flags you should never allow in your relationship. Relationships ought to be emotionally satisfying as well as intellectually nourishing. This holds true for all types of relationships, but particularly for romantic ones. Your partner ought to be able to be counted on to love and care for you whenever you need them to. However, this is not always the case, which is unfortunate. It's possible for us to get mired down in relationships that aren't a good fit for us, or you can find that you're in a situation in which you're with a companion who is more detrimental to your well-being than beneficial. The following habits will provide insight into what you should do if you now find yourself to be single. Watch out to save yourself some grief and suffering. And if you're already in a relationship, this will help you appreciate your significant other or partner even more. Determine what has been going wrong so that you can take action to correct the situation. Listed below are some actions that you should never put up with in a romantic partnership. First and foremost, they consistently engage in lying. Every relationship must have trust in order to function well, and trust cannot exist in the absence of honesty. It's true that everyone occasionally engages in some harmless white lies. For instance, in order to avoid fulfilling a social commitment, they may invent a pretext or bend the rules. The truth in order to spare the sentiments of another person. But if you find out that another person has been dishonest, it is up to you to decide whether or not to report them. It is reasonable or bearable to do so. Many times, liars are able to avoid the repercussions of their acts and present a picture of who they are that cannot be considered genuine. Finding out that someone isn't who you believed they were might be upsetting, but you're not the only one who's been there. It is to your advantage to have a complete awareness of the situation. You are worthy of having a partner who will be honest with you about who they really are, both the good and the negative sides of themselves. The second reason is that they ghost you on occasion. When you're first getting to know someone, ghosting them might be hurtful, but when you're more invested in the relationship, it's not as damaging. It's simply not appropriate in a committed relationship like this one. Disappearing without providing an explanation is not acceptable behavior under any circumstances. Relationships are dependent on communication, and it is both unfair and inconsiderate to suddenly go without warning. If something unexpected occurs and your partner finds that they need some time to themselves, they should communicate this need to you. At the very least, be aware of it. It is not only a sign of immaturity, but also of inconsideration, because it leaves the other person hanging, hurt and unsure of what to do. If behavior like this is allowed to continue in the relationship, it is impossible for it to be healthy. They will emotionally blackmail you, which brings us to point number 3. Emotional blackmail is another type of behavior that is indicative of immaturity in a romantic partnership. This is when your partner uses some of your vulnerabilities in order to coerce you into doing something that they want. Your vulnerabilities, flaws, and secrets are being used against you, either by making you feel guilty if you don't do something for them or by threatening you. They will try to get you to feel like you owe them something. This kind of manipulation is harmful and intolerable, and it's time for me to completely cut ties with you. You should be able to sit down together and be able to have an honest discussion if at all possible. You may have different opinions, but you should be willing to listen to each other's rational arguments and find a middle ground, because it would be better for the relationship. The fourth reason is that they make you feel like you have no value. Abuse of the mind can take many forms and is notoriously difficult to recognize. This is one of them. It begins with tiny slights, such as an offensive remark or a nasty glance, and it can quickly become very serious. It will only get worse from there. Your partner may convince you that you are unlovable and undeserving of respect, and that everyone else is better than you. They will eventually have complete influence over you if they are successful in undermining your confidence. Abuse of a person's mental capacity can take numerous forms, such as insults, comparisons to others, and insulting language. You should never allow yourself to feel that you're not good enough for the person you're dating. Instead, you should both be encouraging and supporting one another to become better versions of yourselves through your interactions with one another. You should receive that much out of a relationship, and if you're not receiving it, then it's not serving its purpose. They will physically assault you, which brings us to point number 5. Words and deeds are two very distinct aspects of a relationship. If someone is abusing you physically while telling you they love you, it doesn't matter how many times they tell you they love you. These words have no real significance. When you love someone, you would never willfully hurt them, and any act of physical violence is done so on purpose. There is nothing you can do or say that justifies any kind of physical violence, and you should never resort to it. Your partner may attempt to make sense of it by claiming that you were the one who started it. But even if this is the case, if that were the case, it would be up to them to have the maturity to wait till circumstances calm down before acting. If you are being physically abused, you need to find the strength to get away from the person who is doing it. Regardless of how difficult it may be, talk to someone you can rely on and make sure you get the assistance you require. The sixth reason is that they deceive you. There are several uncommon romantic pairings that might involve more than one person. But unless you and your spouse have had a talk in which you set expectations for what is acceptable, you won't know what those expectations are. The majority of long-term partnerships are assumed to be monogamous. Because of this, dishonesty is never acceptable. A person who cheats on their partner could try to convince you that you are overreacting or being unduly sensitive about the situation. They might even advise you that you need to get over yourself and move on with your life. When it comes to cheating on a partner, though, it is absolutely acceptable to feel wounded and insulted. It is up to you to decide whether or not to forgive someone who cheats on you and demonstrates true contrition for their actions. They are deserving of your forbearance. On the other hand, recovering from this kind of betrayal is frequently challenging, because the wound is never truly somewhere in the recesses of your mind. In point of fact, cheating is a serious issue for certain individuals. They are unable to stay faithful no matter how diligently they try or how wonderful their partner may be. Therefore, you need to determine when you've had enough and walk away from the situation. According to an old proverb, there is a plethora of fish in the ocean. You shouldn't lower the bar for yourself. Your expectation that your partner will be faithful is not an unrealistic one. Seventh, they attempt to exert authority over all aspects of your life. Simply being in a relationship does not give either party the power to control the decisions made by the other. It's true that when you're in a serious relationship, you'll inevitably form strong ideas on certain topics and preferences regarding one another, whether it is with regard to the manner in which one speaks, dresses, eats, or thinks. But it's never a good idea to try to control everything about another person. It is important that you are able to express your true self without fear of judgment from the person you are with. The eighth reason is that they do not trust you. It's quite normal and even good for a couple to experience some level of jealousy toward one another. A number of people take it to be an indication of love. But if your partner does not trust you and continually accuses you of cheating on them, you should consider ending the relationship. If you haven't given them a reason to, there must be something wrong with the situation. Your difficulty to trust others is frequently more of a reflection on them than it is on you. It may have its roots in a profound lack of self-confidence or in a wound that is not fully healed from a past romantic experience. Have a conversation with them and make your goals as plain as forthright as you can to eliminate any ambiguity. And if they keep accusing you of something you aren't doing, it's typically because they have something to hide. It is in everyone's best interest if they tackle their problems on their own. The unfortunate reality is that until they fix their issues, they won't be able to have a happy relationship. They cut you off from your loved ones, which brings us to point number 9. When you're associated with a person who's too controlling, you run the risk of experiencing maybe the worst possible outcome, which is being cut off from your family and friends for an extended period of time. This individual will treat you this way because they perceive that you and the other people in your life pose a risk to their capacity to exercise complete dominion over you. You can find that you're gradually drifting apart from the people you care about, and before you know it, the distance might become significant. If you are totally cut off from everyone else, a controlling partner will be able to have more power over you if they can isolate you from your friends and family. You to themselves completely. Don't therefore allow this to take place. The 10th reason is that your success poses a threat to them. When you're in a good relationship, you root for one another's happiness and success. Therefore, you encourage one another to accomplish even more, and you rejoice in your successes, no matter how big or how small. If you do well in school, obtain a promotion at work, or accomplish anything remarkable, you should treat yourself appropriately. Be able to rely on your partner to be pleased for you and to praise you on when you do anything. On the other hand, there are some people who want to be in control of the relationship, and they feel threatened by the accomplishments of their companion. They could attempt to downplay your accomplishments and provide little assistance when you really need it. They can even strive to bring you down in order to prevent you from surpassing your level of success. It is essential, however, to keep in mind that a healthy relationship is not a contest of any kind. It's a combination of a working relationship and a close friendship, in which you're always there for one another. These are only some of the warning signals of a relationship that is not healthy. You shouldn't have to put up with behavior like that from the person who is supposed to be helping you.